Ambassador Lee felt his hands shake as he walked through the long metal halls of Station Unity. The massive space station spun slowly in the darkness between stars, and its walls were made of some kind of crystal that showed the light from far. Away Sons Lee had been walking these same halls for 3 months now, 3 long months of talking and waiting and hoping. Behind him walked his team. Kim was the best trade expert Earth had ever produced. She knew everything about buying and selling. Between Planets Park was their technology specialist. He understood machines and computers better than anyone Lee had ever met. Choi was their military advisor, though they all hoped they would never need his skills. The 4 humans made their way to the great meeting hall where the Galaxy Council waited. Lee had dreamed of this day since he was a child, when he first looked up at the stars and wondered what was out there. Now he knew the galaxy was full of life, hundreds of different species, living on thousands of worlds, trading with each other, sharing knowledge, building a great civilization together. Earth wanted to be part of that civilization so badly it hurt. The meeting hall was bigger than any building on Earth. Its ceiling went up so high that clouds formed near the top. The walls curved in a great circle and seats rose up in layers like an ancient stadium. Lee had counted them once. There were seats for over 10,000 beings from across the galaxy. Today only about 200 seats were filled, but those 200 beings represented the most powerful species in known space. The blue-skinned Viridians controlled most of the mining operations in 3 star systems. The insect-like Khazari ran the biggest trade networks. The tall gray Nexari were the galaxy's best scientists and engineers. At the center of it all sat Chancellor Kex's blue skin, almost glowing under the bright lights. His voice sounded like 2 pieces of metal rubbing together when he spoke, and his black eyes never seemed to blink. Lee had been trying to read those eyes for months, trying to understand what the Chancellor really thought about humans. Lee walked to the small platform at the bottom of the great hall. His team took seats behind him, but he stood alone facing the hundreds of alien beings who would decide Earth's future. The silence in the hall was so complete that Lee could hear his own heartbeat. Chancellor Kex leaned forward in his great chair and spoke in the trade language that all species used when they met. Ambassador Lee of Earth, we have considered your request for 3 months. We have studied the data you provided about your species and your world. We have reviewed the technologies you offer. Lee felt hope rise in his chest. Maybe today would be the day Earth finally joined the great community of worlds. Your species shows remarkable qualities. The Chancellor continued, you adapt quickly to new situations. You work well together even under great stress. You solve problems in ways that other species do not expect. Kim leaned forward in her seat. Lee could feel her excitement, even though he could not see her face. However, the Chancellor said, and that one word made Lee's heart sink. Your technology, while interesting, is not unique. The medical advances you offer are useful, but we have similar treatments. The energy systems you propose are efficient, but we have other power sources. The farming methods you suggest are clever, but we already feed our populations. Lee wanted to explain that human technology was different, better, but he knew he had to wait and listen. What makes your species truly valuable, Chancellor Keck said, is something else entirely: your physical capabilities. Your endurance, your ability to work in dangerous conditions without breaking down. These qualities are rare in the galaxy. Most species are too fragile for difficult work. The insect trade minister stood up, his 6 legs clicking on the metal floor, made a sound like rain on a roof. We have deep space mining operations that require workers who can handle extreme conditions. We have factory worlds where the work is too dangerous for most species. We have exploration missions to planets where the environment would kill other beings. Lee began to understand where this was going, and he did not like it. Therefore, Chancellor Kex announced, we offer Earth Junior membership in the Galactic Trade Federation. In exchange, you will provide 2 billion human workers for our various operations. These workers will be well treated and paid according to galactic standards. Your species will benefit from access to galactic technology and trade networks. The hall fell silently, stared up at the Chancellor, unable to believe what he had just heard. 2 billion workers, that was almost 1/4 of all humans alive. Junior membership meant Earth would have almost no say in galactic decisions. They would be servants, not partners. We brought You cures for diseases that have killed millions of your people, Lee said, his voice carrying clearly through the Great Hall. We showed you how to produce clean energy that could power entire star systems. We offered farming techniques that could end hunger on dozens of worlds. Yes, yes, the trade minister clicked impatiently. All very interesting, but your real value is your people themselves. Most species cannot work in the conditions we require. You can. What about our minds? Kim called. Out from behind Lee. What about our creativity, our problem-solving abilities? The gray Nexari science director spoke for the first time. His voice was thin and cold. Your intellectual capabilities, while adequate, are not exceptional. Many species possess similar cognitive abilities. What makes you special is your physical resilience. Lee felt something break inside him. 3 months of negotiations. 3 months of showing these beings the best that humanity had to offer. 3 months of hoping that Earth could join the galaxy as equals, and in the end they only saw humans as tools to be used. We need an answer, Ambassador, Chancellor Keck said. This offer will not remain open forever. Other species are eager to take advantage of galactic membership. Lee looked back at his team. Kim looked angry enough to start a fight. Park was staring at his hands. Troy met Lee's eyes and gave a tiny shake of his head. Lee turned back to face the hundreds of alien beings who filled the Great Hall. He thought about Earth spinning peacefully in space around its yellow sun. He thought about the billions of humans who were waiting to hear if their species would be welcomed into the galactic community or treated like property. We need time to consider. Your offer, Lee said. How much time? The Chancellor asked. 24 hours, the Chancellor nodded. Very well. We will meet again tomorrow for your answer. Lee and his team left the Great Hall in silence. They walked through the crystal corridors of Station Unity, past windows that showed the stars scattered like diamonds across the darkness. Each of them knew that everything had changed. The dream of joining the galaxy as equals was dead now. They had to decide what to do next. Back in their quarters, the 4 humans sat around a metal table and stared at each other. Finally, Kim spoke. They want to make us slaves. Not slaves exactly, Park said. Workers, servants. Maybe the conditions would not be so bad. 2 billion people, Choi said. Quietly, 2 billion humans working in their mines and factories while they sit back and make the real decisions. Lee stood up and walked to the window that showed the vast emptiness of space. What if we said no? Then we go back to Earth alone. Kim replied, no galactic technology, no trade with other worlds, no help when we face problems we cannot solve ourselves. But we would be free, Lee said. The 4 humans talked through the night, weighing their choices: join the galaxy as servants or remain alone among the stars. Both options seemed impossible. When morning came, Lee had made his decision. He walked back into the Great Hall with his team behind him. The hundreds of alien beings watched as he took his place on the small platform. Chancellor Kex leaned forward, waiting for Earth's answer. Lee looked up at all those strange faces, all those beings who saw his species as nothing more than useful animals. He thought about every human who had ever looked up at the stars and dreamed of what might be out there. Earth rejects your offer, Lee said clearly. The hall erupted in surprised voices, clicking mandibles and other alien sounds of shock. Furthermore, Lee continued, Earth withdraws from all diplomatic contact with the galaxy. Council, we will find our own path among the stars. He turned and walked toward the exit, his team following without a word. Behind them, the Great Hall filled with confused voices as hundreds of alien beings tried to understand what had just happened. The doors of the meeting hall closed behind the 4 humans with a soft sound like a sigh, and in that moment everything changed. Captain Yoon stared at the empty space where the human colony of New Geneva should have been. Her ship, the Viridian scout vessel, Blue Dawn, hung motionless in the void while her crew ran scan after scan of the area. 6 months ago, this system had been home to 3 million humans living on 2 planets and 17 space stations. Now, there was nothing, not even debris, not even the faintest energy signature that would show where buildings had once stood. The planets were still there, of course, spinning silently around their orange sun, but every trace of human presence had vanished as if it had never existed at all. Run the scans again. Yoon ordered. Her science officer, Lieutenant Kex, worked at his station, his blue fingers dancing over the controls. Captain, I have run full spectrum analysis 12 times. The results are always the same. No artificial structures, no energy emissions. No signs of recent habitation. The humans are simply gone. Yoon had been a ship captain for 20 years. She had seen pirates destroy colonies and plagues empty entire worlds, but she had never seen anything like this. When colonies were abandoned, they left traces, broken buildings, scattered debris, the heat signatures of recently used equipment here. There was nothing at all. What about the trade station in the asteroid belt? She asked. Also gone, Captain. The entire facility has vanished, not destroyed, not abandoned, gone as if it was never built. The Blue Dawn was one of 50 ships the Galaxy Council had sent to monitor human space after Earth walked away from the negotiations. Chancellor Kex had been confident that the humans would come crawling back within weeks. No species could survive isolation from galactic civilization. Instead, something impossible was happening. Human settlements were disappearing one by one. 3 weeks earlier, Captain Yoon had visited the Human Research Station at Volf 359. The station had been there, surrounded by a cloud of scientific equipment and automated laboratories. When she returned 5 days later, the entire complex had vanished without a trace. The same thing happened at every human world her ship investigated. Mining colonies that had been visible from space were simply gone. Research facilities that had been broadcasting scientific data went completely silent. Trade posts that had been busy with merchant ships became empty points in space. Captain, we are receiving a message from Fleet Command, her communications officer announced. Put it through. The holographic image of Admiral Voss appeared in the center of the bridge. The elderly Viridian looked tired and confused. Captain Yoon, what is your status? Same as all other ships, Admiral. The humans have vanished from this system as well. No signs of conflict, no evidence of evacuation. They are simply gone. Admiral Voss rubbed his forehead with one hand. This makes no sense. Captain, 47 different human settlements monitored by our fleet, all of them have disappeared. How does an entire interstellar civilization just vanish? I do not know, Admiral. Could they have developed some kind of cloaking technology? Captain Yoon considered this. Our sensors can detect any known form of stealth technology, Admiral. If the humans had simple cloaking devices, we would still pick up gravitational distortions, energy leaks, heat signatures. But there is nothing. Keep searching, Captain. The Chancellor wants answers. The hologram flickered and died, leaving Captain Yoon alone with her confused crew. What none of them knew was that 3 months earlier, Dr. Song had made a breakthrough that changed everything. The brilliant human physicist had been working on theoretical space-time manipulation for 15 years. Most of her colleagues thought her research was impossible. Dr. Song had proved them wrong. Deep beneath the mountains of Earth, her laboratory contained equipment that could bend space itself. She had discovered how to fold reality, creating pockets of space time that existed alongside normal space but could not be detected or reached by conventional means. When Ambassador Lee sent word that Earth was breaking off contact with the Galaxy Council, Dr. Song activated protocols that had been prepared in secret. Every human world, every space station, every research facility had been equipped with her folding technology. In the span of 72 hours, the entire human civilization stepped sideways out of normal space-time. Now, Captain Yoon and her crew were looking at the empty shells where human settlements used to exist. The planets were still there because moving entire worlds was beyond even human technology. But everything humans had built, everything that showed their presence among the stars, had been folded into hidden dimensions from their concealed positions. Human observers watched the alien search ships with great interest. Commander Nam stood in the observation deck of the hidden research station Prometheus, watching Captain Yoon's ship scan empty space. The Blue Dawn passed within a few hundred meters of the station's location, but its sensors detected nothing. They look confused, observed Lieutenant Park, who was monitoring alien communications. They should be, Commander. Nam replied. They expected us to come begging for readmission to their precious Federation. Instead, we have done something they thought was impossible. The hidden station was one of hundreds scattered throughout human space. Each one monitored alien activities while remaining completely undetectable. The humans were learning valuable lessons about their former neighbors. They learned that the Viridians were not as advanced as they pretended. Most of their technology was borrowed from other species. or purchased from the Nexari. The proud blue-skinned aliens who had dismissed human innovation were actually far behind Earth in several key areas. They learned that the Khazari trade networks were fragile and inefficient. The insect-like beings moved goods between systems using methods that wasted enormous amounts of time and energy. Human logistics experts could have improved their efficiency by 300%. Most importantly, they learned that the Galaxy Council was not the united, powerful organization it appeared to be. The member species spent most of their time arguing with each other, jealously guarding their territories and technologies. Very little actual cooperation took place back on Earth. President Kim received daily reports from the hidden observation posts. The news was encouraging. The aliens were completely baffled by humanity's disappearance. They had no idea how to find the missing human settlements, or even how to begin looking for them. More importantly, they were already starting to experience problems that human technology could have solved. The Kepler plague had been contained to 3 worlds when human medical researchers offered their help. Now, without access to Earth advanced treatments, the disease was spreading. The alien doctors were using primitive methods that barely slowed the infection. Agricultural problems were developing on 12 terraformed worlds. The alien farming techniques worked well on natural planets but failed when applied to artificially created environments. Human agricultural experts had spent decades learning how to make any world fertile. Energy shortages were beginning to affect outer rim systems. The aliens relied on power sources that required constant maintenance and expensive fuel. Human fusion technology could have provided clean, unlimited energy, but the Galaxy Council had called it not essential. "How long do we maintain the isolation?" asked General Troy during a secure communication from his hidden military command center. "As long as necessary," President Kim replied. "We gave them a chance to treat us as equals. They chose to see us as servants. Now they can learn what happens when those servants simply disappear." The plan was working better than anyone had hoped. Earth had not just hidden from the galaxy, they had become invisible ghosts, watching and learning while their former neighbors struggled with problems that could have been easily solved. 3 months after the isolation began, the first cracks appeared in the Galaxy Council. Trade routes that had depended on human logistics support began to fail. Member species started blaming each other for the growing problems. None of them wanted to admit that the primitive humans they had dismissed might have been more valuable than they realized. Captain Yoon received new orders to expand her search to include systems that had never had human settlements. The Galaxy Council was becoming desperate. They were starting to believe that humans might have developed technology far beyond anything they understood. She was right, but she would never know it. In the hidden depths of folded space, human civilization was not just surviving, it was growing stronger. Every day brought new technological advances, new discoveries, new capabilities. The isolation that was supposed to weaken Earth was actually making it more powerful. The Galaxy Council had wanted human workers. Instead, they had created human ghosts, and those ghosts were watching everything, learning everything, preparing for the day when they would reveal themselves again. That day would come sooner than the aliens expected. Governor Han stood behind the one-way observation window of Hidden Station Alpha, watching the chaos unfold on the planet below. Kepler 7 had been a beautiful world once, with crystal blue oceans and floating cities connected by bridges of light. Now those same cities were burning and the oceans were turning black with the bodies of the dead. The Kepler plague had finally broken free from the 3 worlds where it started. 1 year after humanity vanished from the galaxy, the deadly virus was spreading faster than anyone had imagined. 12 systems were now infected, and the death count was climbing toward 1 billion beings. Han had watched human medical teams work on this same plague 2 years ago. Dr. Lee and her research staff had developed a cure in 3 weeks using advanced gene therapy techniques. The treatment was so effective that the plague had been completely eliminated from the test populations. Now, those same techniques were locked away in hidden human databases. While alien doctors struggled with treatments that barely slowed the disease down, the proud Nexari scientists who had called human medicine adequate were watching their own people die by the millions. "Governor, we are receiving another transmission from the Viridian Medical Council," reported Lieutenant Song from the communications station. "What are they saying now?" They are offering to trade 3-star systems for access to human medical technology. They claim they know we are still out here. Somewhere watching them, Han almost smiled. The aliens were finally starting to understand what they had lost. When humanity offered to share their medical advances, the Galaxy Council had dismissed them as not unique. Now those same advances could save billions of lives, but the humans were nowhere to be found. At least, that was what the aliens believed. The truth was that humanity was everywhere hidden. Observation posts monitored every major world, and the galaxy-cloaked ships followed alien fleets through. Hyperspace scientists in folded space laboratories continued their research at an incredible pace, but they no longer shared their discoveries with anyone. The medical crisis was just the beginning. Governor Han had reports from dozens of human observers throughout the galaxy, and each report painted the same picture. The Galaxy Council was falling apart without the innovations they had. Rejected agricultural specialist Yoon sent daily updates from the farming worlds of the outer rim. The terraformed planets that fed half the galaxy were experiencing massive crop failures. The alien farming techniques that had worked for centuries were failing as climate patterns shifted on the artificial worlds. Human agricultural experts had spent decades developing adaptive farming methods that could handle any environmental change. Their techniques could have saved the failing harvests, but the Galaxy Council had called those methods clever but unnecessary. Now 14 worlds faced starvation, and the aliens had no solutions. Energy expert Park monitored the power grids of major galactic civilizations. His reports were equally grim. 7 systems were experiencing rolling blackouts as their ancient power sources broke down. The technology was thousands of years old and required constant repairs with increasingly rare materials. Human fusion technology could have replaced every failing power plant in the galaxy. The clean, unlimited energy would have solved the growing power crisis in months, but the aliens had decided that human energy systems were efficient but not needed now. They were learning the cost of that decision. The political situation was even worse. Trade Minister Kim received intelligence reports from hidden sources throughout the Galaxy Council. The member species were starting to turn on each other as the crises multiplied. The Viridians blamed the Khazari for the trade route failures. The Khazari blamed the Nexari for not providing better technology. The Nexari blamed everyone else for not properly maintaining the systems they had purchased. What none of them wanted to admit was that the primitive humans they had dismissed might have prevented all of these problems. Governor, we have a priority message from Earth. Lieutenant Song announced. The secure transmission from President Lee appeared on Han private screen. The leader of humanity looked tired but determined. Governor Han, I need a full assessment of galactic stability. How long before complete collapse? Han reviewed her data carefully, based on current trends. I estimate 6 months before the first member species withdraws from the Galaxy Council, 8 months before open warfare breaks out between former allies, 12 months before the complete dissolution of galactic civilization as we know it. And if they had access to our technology, all current crises could be resolved within weeks. Most could be prevented entirely with proper implementation of our innovations. President Lee nodded grimly. Then we continue the isolation. Earth will not reveal itself until the aliens learn to respect what we offered. The transmission ended, leaving Han alone with her thoughts. She understood the strategy. Earth was teaching the galaxy a harsh lesson about consequences. The beings who had seen humans as useful animals were learning what happened when those animals simply disappeared, but the cost was enormous. Billions of innocent beings were dying from plagues that humans could cure. Entire worlds faced starvation. That human farming techniques could prevent star systems went dark when human energy technology could provide unlimited power. Lieutenant Park approached with another report. Governor, the situation on Nexari Prime is deteriorating. Their primary fusion reactors are failing, and they estimate 3 weeks before total power loss. Nexari Prime was home to 15 billion beings. If the power failed completely, the death toll would be catastrophic, but the proud gray-skinned aliens had spent months claiming that their technology was superior to anything humans could offer. Any word from their government? They are still refusing to acknowledge that they need outside help. The Nexari Council claims they will solve the crisis using their own resources. Han shook her head. The Nexari had always been the most arrogant of the alien species. Their scientists had dismissed human innovations while secretly copying human research. Methods now their pride was about to cost billions of lives. Similar scenes were playing out across the galaxy. The insect-like Khazari were watching their trade networks collapse as shipping routes became too dangerous to maintain without proper logistics support. The blue-skinned Viridians saw their mining operations shut down as equipment failures mounted without adequate maintenance protocols. Each species had rejected some aspect of human knowledge. Now they were paying the price for that rejection. The most ironic part was that humanity could have prevented all of it. Dr. Song received daily reports from the hidden research stations. Human scientists had continued their work during the isolation, developing new medical treatments, improved farming techniques, advanced energy systems. If the Galaxy Council had accepted Earth as an equal partner, all of these innovations would have been shared freely. The plague would never have spread. The crops would never have failed. The power grids would never have collapsed. Instead, the aliens had chosen to see humans as servants fit only for dangerous manual labor. Now they were learning what servants actually provided. Commander Choi monitored the military situation from his hidden command center. The growing chaos was creating security problems throughout the galaxy. Pirates were attacking shipping convoys, knowing that the usual patrol fleets were too busy dealing with internal crises to respond. 3 minor wars had broken out between species arguing over resources. 2 more conflicts seemed inevitable as desperation drove former allies to consider desperate measures. "Commander, we are detecting unusual activity in the Outer Rim," reported his intelligence officer. "The Zephyrian Empire appears to be mobilizing their fleet." "Mobilizing for what?" "Unknown, sir, but our sources suggest they may be planning to seize agricultural worlds from neighboring systems. Their own food production has fallen by 60%. The Zephyrians had been peaceful for over a century. Their empire was built on trade and cooperation, not conquest. But starvation could drive any species to violence. All of these problems could have been avoided if the Galaxy Council had simply treated humanity with respect. The medical technology, energy systems, agricultural innovations, and military expertise that Earth offered could have strengthened galactic civilization beyond anything previously imagined. Instead, the aliens had wanted human workers and nothing else. Now they were discovering what happened when you rejected the minds that created the technology and kept only the hands that built it. The hands could disappear, but the consequences lasted forever. Commander O watched from the hidden observation deck of Station Echo as the Galaxy Council emergency fleet gathered around Station Unity. 2 years had passed since humanity vanished from normal space, and the desperate aliens were trying everything they could think of to find Earth civilization. 50 of the most advanced ships in the galaxy hung motionless in formation around the Great Crystal Station. Each vessel bristled with experimental scanning equipment, quantum sensors, dimensional probes, and reality mapping devices. The aliens had spent their last reserves of rare materials building these machines. They were searching for Ghost. Chancellor Kex stood in the command center of the flagship Eternal Glory, surrounded by the greatest scientific minds the galaxy could gather. Nexari physicists, Khazari engineers, Viridian computer specialists, all of them working together for the first time in galactic history, all of them united by the same desperate need to find the humans who had vanished. "Without a trace, begin the deep space quantum scan," the Chancellor ordered. The massive sensor array mounted on the Eternal Glory began to glow with dangerous energy. The quantum scanners were experimental technology that could theoretically detect objects hidden in folded space-time dimensions, but the power requirements were enormous and the risks were unknown. Dr. Vex, the lead Nexari scientist, monitored the energy readings with growing concern. "Chancellor, the power levels are approaching critical limits. If we push the scanners any harder, we risk a cascade failure that could destroy half the fleet." "Continue the scan," Kex ordered coldly. "We must find them." The first pulse of quantum energy swept outward from the fleet, moving faster than light. As it searched the hidden dimensions where humanity might be hiding, the sensors detected strange energy patterns, spatial distortions that suggested something was indeed concealed in folded space. "We have contacts," announced the Khazari. Sensor operator, multiple large structures hidden in dimensional folds throughout this system. Chancellor Kex felt his heart race with excitement. Can you get a clear reading? Negative, sir. The structures appear to be shielded against quantum detection. We can sense their presence but cannot determine their nature or exact location. It was the first proof that humanity still existed somewhere in the hidden dimensions of space. The aliens had spent 2 years wondering if the humans had somehow destroyed themselves or fled to another galaxy. Now they knew Earth civilization was still out there, watching and waiting. The second quantum pulse revealed even more disturbing information. Chancellor Dr. Vex called out, his voice filled with shock. The hidden structures are massive, far larger than anything we detected in human space before their disappearance. How much larger? Some of these installations appear to be the size of small moons, sir. They have been building something enormous. Is taking shape in the folded dimensions? Commander O smiled grimly as she watched the alien fleet struggle with their scanners. The humans had indeed been building during 2 years of isolation. Earth engineers had constructed research facilities, manufacturing plants and shipyards that dwarfed anything the galaxy had ever seen, free from the need to hide their capabilities from judgmental aliens. Human civilization had expanded at an incredible rate. The folded space dimensions provided unlimited room for growth, and the advanced technology made construction faster than ever before. But the aliens would never get close enough to see what humanity had actually built. Sir, the quantum scanners are overloading, reported the chief engineer aboard. The eternal glory, we need to shut down before we lose the entire array. 5 more minutes, Chancellor Kex demanded. We need more information. The third quantum pulse nearly destroyed the scanning equipment. Energy feedback surged through the ships, systems causing explosions on 3 decks. The proud flagship of the Galaxy Council limped away from the scanner, array trailing smoke and sparks, but the brief scan had revealed something that terrified every alien scientist who saw the data. The humans are not just hiding, Dr. Vex reported quietly. They are advancing. Their technology signatures show development patterns that should be impossible. They appear to have made more progress in 2 years than most species achieve in centuries. The implications were staggering. Humanity had not gone into isolation to sulk or to slowly decline without galactic support. They had used their freedom from alien interference to accelerate their development beyond anything previously imagined, while the Galaxy Council struggled with cascading failures and dying civilizations. The hidden humans had been building a technological empire in folded space. Chancellor Kex called an emergency session of the full Galaxy Council. The great meeting hall of Station Unity filled with representatives from every member species as the Chancellor shared the terrifying discovery. The humans are still out there, he announced, and they have been using their isolation to advance far beyond our current capabilities. The hall erupted in angry voices, and frightened, chittering Trade Minister Kill stood up, his insect legs clicking nervously. How is this possible? We offered them junior membership. They should have been grateful for any place in galactic civilization. Apparently they were not as primitive as we believed, replied Science Director Next, his gray skin pale with worry. Our scans suggest they now possess technology that makes our greatest achievements look obsolete. Governor Mal of the Outer Rim Worlds rose to speak. My systems are dying, Chancellor. The plague has spread to 15 worlds now. The crops are failing on 20 more planets. My people are starving while aliens with the cure to our problems hide in dimensions we cannot reach. What do you suggest we do? Asked the Chancellor. Apologize, beg if necessary. Offer them anything they want to save our civilizations. Admiral Cox of the Viridian Defense Fleet shook his head angrily. We should demand they reveal themselves. They are allowing billions to die while they play hiding games in folded space. This is an act of war. War against whom? Asked Dr. Vex quietly. We cannot find them. We cannot reach them. Our most advanced weapons would be useless against enemies. We cannot even locate. The debate raged for hours as the alien leaders tried to find some solution to their impossible situation. Some wanted to try negotiations with empty space, hoping the humans would respond. Others suggested threats and ultimatums. Still others proposed building even more powerful scanners to force humanity out of hiding. All of the proposals had the same fatal flaw. They required finding the humans first. Commander O listened to the alien arguments through hidden monitoring devices placed throughout Station Unity. The desperate aliens were finally beginning to understand the magnitude of their mistake. 2 years earlier they had dismissed human civilization as useful but not essential. Now they were learning that human civilization had become something far more dangerous than they had ever imagined. The quantum scans had revealed the truth, but not the full truth. Human shipyards in folded space were producing vessels that used principles alien science could not understand. Human research facilities were developing weapons that could reshape reality itself. Human manufacturing plants were creating materials that existed in multiple dimensions simultaneously. Earth had not just advanced beyond the galaxy Council, they had advanced beyond anything the galaxy had ever seen. President Park reviewed the intelligence reports from the hidden observation posts with satisfaction. The alien desperation was exactly what humanity had hoped to achieve. The species that had once offered Earth servitude were now begging empty space for help. How long before complete collapse? She asked Intelligence Director Han. At current rates of decline, 4 months before the first major government falls, 6 months before open warfare between former allies, 8 months before the galactic economy completely breaks down, and they still have no way to contact us. None, sir. Our communication systems exist entirely in folded space. They could broadcast on every frequency in normal space, and we would never receive their transmissions unless we chose to monitor them. It was the perfect isolation. Humanity could watch the galaxy, but the galaxy could not even send a message to Earth. The aliens who had wanted human workers discovered they had lost the ability to communicate with human minds. Soon they would learn what those minds had been building in the darkness between dimensions. The revelation would come sooner than anyone expected, and it would change everything. The galaxy thought it knew about power and technology and the price of arrogance, but first the aliens would have to survive long enough to see it. Admiral Kang stood on the bridge of the flagship New Earth, watching as her fleet moved into position around Station Unity. 3 years had passed since Ambassador Lee walked out of the failed negotiations. 3 years since humanity vanished from normal space. 3 years of building and growing and becoming something the galaxy had never seen before. Today, the galaxy would see what those 3 years had created. The human fleet that surrounded Station Unity bore no resemblance to the ships. Aliens remembered human vessels had once been functional but unremarkable metal constructs that followed conventional physics. Now they moved through space like living things, bending reality around them as they traveled. The new Earth itself was impossible by galactic standards, a ship 3 kilometers long that seemed to be made of crystallized starlight. Its hull shifted and flowed like liquid while maintaining perfect structural integrity. Energy patterns danced across its surface in colors that had no names. Behind it came 50 more vessels, each one representing a breakthrough in human engineering. Ships that existed in multiple dimensions simultaneously. Vessels that could manipulate time, and spacecraft that drew power directly from the quantum foam that filled empty space. Chancellor Kex received the transmission in his private chambers aboard Station Unity. The message was brief and delivered in perfect galactic trade language, but the voice belonged to a human chancellor. This is First Speaker Lee of the Terran Federation. We are here to discuss terms. The same man who had walked away from negotiations 3 years ago was back, but everything else had changed. The title was different. The authority behind the voice was absolute, and the ships surrounding the station made it clear that humanity was no longer asking for permission to join galactic civilization. Within an hour, the Galaxy Council had assembled in the Great Meeting Hall, the same chamber where they had once offered humanity servitude, now hosted a very different kind of negotiation. First Speaker Lee entered the hall accompanied by a small group of human advisors. Their appearance was subtly different from 3 years before. They moved with the confidence of beings who had transcended the limitations that once bound them. Their technology was so advanced it seemed like magic. Honorable representatives of the Galaxy Council, Lee began, his voice carrying clearly through the vast space. Your civilization is dying. The blunt statement silenced the hundreds of alien delegates who filled the chamber. The Kepler plague has spread to 27 systems and shows no signs of slowing. Food shortages affect 60% of your member world's energy grids are failing throughout your territory. Political stability has collapsed in 12 governments. Admiral Voss of the Viridian Defense Fleet stood up angrily. We know our problems, human. Why should we discuss them with you? Lee smiled coldly. Because we have the solutions. You disappeared 3 years ago, accused. Trade Minister Kill, you abandoned the galaxy when we needed cooperation. You let billions die while you hid in your dimensional pocket. We offered cooperation. Lee replied calmly, you offered us slavery. The choice was yours, as were the consequences. Dr. Vex, the Nexari science director, leaned forward in his seat. Our quantum scans detected massive construction in folded space. What have you been building? The future, answered Admiral Kang as she stepped forward. While your civilization struggled with problems, we could have prevented humanity built something new. Something better. She activated a holographic display that filled the center of the great hole. The images showed human installations that defied comprehension, cities that existed in 7 dimensions simultaneously, factories that manufactured matter from pure energy, shipyards that built vessels using principles alien science could not understand. This is impossible, whispered Chancellor Kex. 3 years ago you called our technology interesting but not essential. Lee said you believed your civilization was advanced enough to survive without human contributions. You were wrong. The holographic display changed, showing detailed analysis of every crisis facing the Galaxy Council. Medical data that revealed exactly how the Kepler plague could be stopped. Agricultural reports that outlined solutions to the food shortages. Energy projections that demonstrated how failing power grids could be upgraded. All of it was information the aliens desperately needed. All of it was technology they could no longer obtain through trade or theft. All of it belonged to humanity now. What do you want? Asked Governor Mao, his voice barely above a whisper. The same thing we wanted 3 years ago, Lee replied. Respect, recognition, equality. You can have full membership in the Galaxy Council, Chancellor Kex offered quickly. Equal representation. Equal voting rights. Equal. You misunderstand, Lee interrupted. We are not here to join your council. We are here to offer you membership in ours. The words hit the alien delegates like a physical blow. The species that had once dismissed humanity as primitive laborers were being invited to join a human-dominated federation. The Terran Federation offers membership to any species willing to accept our leadership. Admiral Kang explained, we will share our medical technology with worlds that accept human oversight of their health systems. We will provide agricultural solutions to planets that agree to follow human farming protocols. We will upgrade failing energy grids for governments that accept human engineering standards. You want to rule us, said Admiral Cox. We want to save you, Lee corrected. Your governments have proven incapable of managing the challenges facing galactic civilization. Human leadership offers stability, prosperity, and survival. The debate that followed was unlike anything in galactic history. Proud species that had ruled star systems for millennia were forced to consider accepting guidance from beings they had once seen as useful animals. Some delegates argued for resistance despite the obvious futility. Others called for immediate acceptance of human terms. Still others proposed desperate alternatives that everyone knew would fail. During a recess in the negotiations, Chancellor Kex approached Lee privately. How did this happen? He asked. 3 years ago you were asking us for membership. Now you offer us servitude in return. Not servitude, Lee replied. Partnership, but partnership between equals, not between masters and servants. Your technology makes us children compared to your capabilities. Yes, it does, but children can grow if they have good teachers. The question is whether you want to learn or whether you prefer to remain in ignorance while your civilizations collapse. The Chancellor looked old and tired. What happens if we refuse? Lee shrugged. Then you refuse. We return to folded space and continue building our civilization while yours falls apart. We tried to help once before. You chose differently. The choice remains yours, and if we accept, then we work together. To solve the problems facing the galaxy, medical aid begins immediately. Agricultural support follows within weeks. Energy grid upgrades start within months. Your people live, your civilizations survive, and everyone benefits from human innovation. Was the same offer Earth had made 3 years ago. But with the positions completely reversed, now humanity held all the advantages while the Galaxy Council faced extinction. The final vote took place in the Great Hall with representatives from every major species casting their decision. The result was inevitable when the alternative was civilizational collapse. The Galaxy Council voted to accept membership in the Terran Federation as the ceremonies concluded and the formal documents were signed. Admiral Kong reflected on the lesson humanity had taught the galaxy. Sometimes the best response to disrespect was not argument or violence, but simply walking away and building something better. The aliens had wanted human workers, instead they got human leaders. They had dismissed human innovation as not essential, instead they discovered it was the key to survival itself. They had offered partnership between unequals, instead they received partnership as junior members. 3 years of isolation had transformed humanity from desperate supplicants into galactic rulers. The species that had once begged for acceptance now dictated terms to former masters, and, in the end, even the proudest aliens were grateful for it because the alternative was death. The price of arrogance had been paid in full.